I could not sleep, so I started watching reporting live from my sofa on YouTube and just so happened across a Sarah Boone video where he was covering some of that 2,529 page transcript. I have already covered what I believe to be in my video all of the in-court sidebar discussions because they had to be given out in the transcript for the appeal. But he mentioned something specific, and I would like to focus on it in these transcripts here. I want to talk about the times that they tried to talk about the family law case. Yes, the family law case that is still ongoing. The case where Sarah Boone thinks she deserves alimony while in prison. The family law case where she believes she should be getting child support while spending the rest of her life in prison. Let's take a look at what was said. Moving to 22, family law case file, Boone v. Boone, case number 2017-DR01660-0. I understand the state's objection as to relevance and hearsay. Response? Now remember, the judge, Kranick, he actually was involved in family law, so he has an idea of what's going on. So Mr. Owen says, Judge, Brian Boone, we anticipate, is going to testify for the state, may testify for the defense, and he may be considered an adverse witness or hostile witness, and so we may attempt to establish either bias on his part based on some of the documents or orders in the court record, or we may reflect for impeachment purposes the fact that he has not complied with some of the orders and that the reason being is because of his feelings for the defendant. You know, now he's got full custody of their son, and he has had full custody for 4.5 years. That was not the agreement they originally had, and he was ordered to pay alimony, which he has failed to do as a result of her being incarcerated. So there's litigation going on. Brian Boone has counsel, Sarah Boone does not in that divorce case, but there. And I do want to mention that James Owens, according to Sarah, has to this day some of her, or at least the last time I saw correspondence, she claimed he still has her family law case files, and she's tried multiple times to get lawyers, it seems, in that case, and no one will take her. The judge. What does Mr. Owens, depending on what he says, the court, what does the non-payment of alimony have to do with what's happening in a family case? Mr. Owens. Well, Judge, that goes to his testimony. That goes to his credibility. Whether or not he can be impeached, that her and the position that she's in now, he's biased. And to show that he's biased and he has not paid alimony for, he was supposed to pay $1,000 a month for a number of years, and he just failed to comply with the court's order that shows his personal bias or feelings towards Sarah Boone. The court asks response, and Mr. J says, it sounds like this is ongoing pending litigation and has not been decided by a circuit court judge of the Ninth Circuit sitting in the family division, and I can certainly understand why one may believe they don't need to pay alimony when their spouse is incarcerated. I can certainly understand why somebody may believe they don't have to pay child support when their spouse is incarcerated, and they probably want to seek legal redress about those issues, and it sounds like it's all ongoing. Yeah, that broke my tongue for some reason. The court. Are there any orders from the court in that case addressing the non-payment of alimony and that being contemptuous or in violation of any court order? And Mr. Owens says the main thing that is so important when talking about the Sarah Boone family law case. No. No. Any claims that Brian was illegally withholding funds, any court decision saying that? No. They were divorced. I think there was a marital settlement agreement that was attached to the final order. Brian Boone did open the case back up to move the child to Gainesville, which has happened. And then my understanding is there's still some issue. And remember, Sarah also didn't want to let the child move. I think she was given some kind of notice of a hearing coming up that she's not represented. I don't represent her. The court. Is there? So if there is no order in the court file finding there's a violation of an order to pay alimony, what is, Mr. Owens? Well, there's a final order about his obligation to pay alimony, and I think if he gets on the stand, I'm going to ask him, but you haven't paid her alimony like you were ordered to do so. I can go into on cross-examination the court. But it sounds like there's pending litigation, including a relocation, or I don't know, because that's not my case and I haven't looked at it. Mr. Owens says that's been decided. That's been decided. He's been able to relocate. I don't know all the ramifications. I'll look at the clerk file. I think we had subpoenaed the custodian of the records for the clerk file. I'll look at it and I'll let the court know and the state know. Then the court, can you all approach for a moment? Or at the bench. And I might have covered this, by the way, because it's at the bench. I might have covered this in my previous video. I just wanted to have it as a separate highlight. So this is specifically about the family law case, and that's going to be coming to an end, hopefully really soon. The court. So this is a judge explaining. I was on the family bench for 4.5 years. Here's my concern. I don't know the status of this litigation, but if there's a pending supplemental petition, he's arguing a substantial change in circumstances regarding alimony, there's not a requirement for him to pay it. It's not contemptuous. Oh, right there. Right, Sarah Boone. Oh. If she lived in reality, that would hurt her so bad. It would hurt her so bad. Because that's Cranick basically saying, well, I have 4.5 years on the bench, and it doesn't work the way you're describing. Mr. Owens, yeah, I don't think that's the case. I don't believe that's the case. Sarah seemed to have a different opinion from what I could gather. The court says there's not a pending supplemental position. How did he move to Gainesville? The only way he could do that is with a supplemental petition. Mr. Owens, a supplemental petition didn't have anything to do with alimony. It just had him. He wanted to move the child to Gainesville. I know the judge granted that order because he's living in Gainesville. He got permission from the court, but I don't believe there's any pleading filing about staying his alimony payments while she was in jail, but I'll look at the file. The court. I need clarification on that because I'm worried there's other legal issues in the family law realm that are going to be at play for the non-payment of his alimony. Mr. Owens, I think I would proffer that to the court if I was going to attempt to impeach him. On a topic related to his family law matters, Sarah's family law matter, I would proffer that the testimony outside the presence of the jury for the court to make a ruling. Okay? I don't know at this stage what he's going to say, but I think it's fair game on cross-examination to share his bias against Sarah Boone. Because he doesn't want Sarah Boone to have any contact with their son, Lucas. He says derogatory things to the son about Sarah Boone, and those are all fair game because he's fighting for full custody of the child or wants full custody. Well, I mean, Sarah's serving life because she didn't take a plea. He never wants Sarah. He wants Sarah to spend the rest of her life in prison. This is Brian Boone. I think he's going to admit this on the stand that he wants Sarah to spend the rest of her life in prison and he wants Lucas to have no contact with his natural mother. Any response, Mr. J? I reviewed the family court file and I don't see anything contemptuous about what he is doing based on the court records, not based on my understanding of family law, which was taking a class in 1995. I do want to put some caution into their sales. I believe it's going to be completely fair game for him to say I'm choosing to take these actions because she's incarcerated. We've taken great steps to avoid them knowing that, besides the fact that she never comes in and out for jury selection. So I think it's going to be fair game for him to say, yeah, I'm not paying child support because she's in jail. Yeah, I'm not paying alimony because she's in jail. And it's either been settled based on the court file in the family court case, or it's still pending. I think that's fair. And then also there's going to be prior consistent statements that he made to rebut his recent motivation for fabrication, so we'll have to be prepared to introduce those prior consistent statements as well. Mr. Owens, judge, and I realize I may open the door about that type of testimony, the court. Have you had a conversation with your client about the ramifications of that? Of the jury knowing that she's in custody? Yes. No. Why not? You realized you were opening this door. You were having this discussion with the state and the judge. Why did you not inform the client? But I will, Judge. And like I said, I don't anticipate Brian Boone testifying until the first next week. And remember, he never did testify. Mr. J and also Mr. Owens, Tony Henderson and I have a 4-hour appointment with, of course, we haven't been able to talk with her much because of all this going on this week, but Tony Henderson and I are going out to see her Saturday from 11 to 4 or 11 to 3, and then Sunday from 11 to 3. We're going to spend, 8 hours with her this weekend. We'll go over this as, there'll also be tablet messaging between Brian Boone and Sarah Boone that will become relevant if we go this route. And jail calls between the two of them. And remember, those messages, Tanika's 2 cents has been sharing those. So to put this in perspective, the state was basically saying, Mr. Owens, we're going to tell the jury she's in jail. And we're going to tell the jury that all she cares about is honey bun money. Your move. That's it, basically. Mr. Owens, all right. Well, I just want to know the specifics of what exactly you all are utilizing, but the court says, I think that's an if, then what happens? I mean, it's all going to be predicated on what he may say from a prior consistent statement perspective. Mr. J, and there's the 5th DCA case, I believe, called State v. Williams, which suggests that we are not permitted by the court to be forced to tell people which particular pages we're going to introduce or which jail calls we're going to introduce, particularly when it's on rebuttal. This is all new to us that he was going to open up all these cans of worms, but we're just cautioning if there's potential rebuttal evidence on jail phone calls, tablets, prior consistent statements, and testimony that will come out that the reason he stopped paying child support and alimony was because of her incarceration, which continues. Which, remember, Sarah loves to lie. Sarah Boone is a liar. If you see the Tanika 2 cents messages, you'll see how she lies. It just slips off the tongue. And of course, on top of that, she lied about what happened with George. She is a liar. So how much do you want to bet that if you combine the text messages and the calls and the reality, it is just a stream of lies mixed in with the fact that she's incarcerated? And I think that really explains why Brian Boone wasn't called by the defense. Mr. Owens, I think the state believes Brian Boone is a key witness. I think they are anticipating calling him. We believe he's biased and has animus towards Sarah Boone. Wait, did the state call him? I think the state actually did call him. I'm sorry. I have not slept. It is almost 9 a.m. I think the state did call Brian. Maybe. I might be losing it here. I have a mental image of him on the stand, but I know the defense never called him, at the very least. The court, no, that's fine. You can go ahead. Just the wheels are spinning in my head. Mr. Owens, it gets closer to his testimony. Like I said, I think we should proffer whatever cross-examination if I attempt to utilize anything from the domestic file, the family law file, that's been proffered outside the presence of the jury so the court can make a ruling. The court, okay, I'm going to overrule the objection at this time. It's going to go to bias. There's in the hearsay concept. There's specific statements that may have been made. I just don't know at this point in time. I think there's enough potentially for the level of impeachment. Maybe that may be enough. So I'm going to overrule your objection for now. I'm going to ask before we proceed with anything on the family law case and cross-examination regarding Mr. Boone that you ask the approach so we can have that proffer and really dial into that point in time. Okay. Okay. So that's all of that there. But then, this is another time. Judge, if I may, I've conferred with my client about the issue on cross-examination of her ex-husband Brian Boone about the family law case, dissolution of marriage case, and through my cross. If I explore those issues, it may come out that she has been in jail pending her arrest back in February the 24th of 2020, so 4.5 years. She understands it may open the door. It may come out. She understands that if I have to make a decision about whether to explore that area of cross-examination, but I believe she's going to say that she trusts my judgment. She's concerned about it coming out that she's had 8 prior attorneys. She does not want that coming out. That's her biggest concern, which there's no reason for that to come out. So I want to see. I'm actually searching Brian Boone here. Yeah, so he did testify. He did testify. I thought he did. I don't know why I was saying he didn't when he definitely did. Jeez, it's right there. Sarah Boone. Anyway, I just wanted to put that out there because I saw him mention it with her family law case, and I was like, you know what? Maybe some people didn't watch my video covering the sidebars. I think it was also like a late night video like this one, but I think it was like released in the middle of the night more, maybe, so maybe less people saw it. But hopefully you found it interesting. That she was just going after the man. It really, I mean, she needs to leave him alone. Let him move on with his life. Let the son move on with their lives. Sarah screwed up. And I was thinking about this, like, I was thinking about this when I was, like, seeing the Lori Vallow stuff, right? Because I just watched the Arizona case. She went in with literally nothing to lose. She's already not getting out. So that made a lot more sense. And then it really kind of circled back, and I was thinking about Sarah. Because Sarah went into this with everything to lose. She got offered a deal that I would say was too good. 15 years. She went through so many attorneys, turned down a 15-year plea offer. Life. And life, you would think at that point, you would check out in some way. Or you'd at least understand your position. But she wants alimony. She wants child support. Oh, is child support too far? Because people keep bringing that up. I guess now I just want the child support money to be in a pool of money that I can then say how it's spent on the son, which is not. It is just wild. It is just wild to me that I feel like in the Sarah Boone case, especially, I think I'd feel the same way with Lori Vallow if I had like started with Arizona. It feels like Sarah never stops digging a hole. Like her separation from like reality is just wild. And she makes everything worse on herself because of that. If she had realistically understood, as like I think a normal person would, that she caused the death of George, if she understood how bad she would look to the jury, if she understood that they were going to be able to play the footage, the videos, the messages, Sarah knew all of those things existed, right? She knew. Because she typed it. She did it. Even if you are a piece of shit, a terrible person, you still know how you come across to another person, right? None of this was a surprise. Her defense team had to tell her, hey, they're going to probably play this. They're going to have access to this on your phone. Here's their offer. And she really thought she was going to get out of it. it is, there's no word for that but delusion. And maybe that is why in some of, like, I watch a lot of true crime stuff and I listen to it in like the background while I do stuff. And in a lot of it, the more outlandish and separated from reality a defendant seems, the more they remind me of Sarah. It's really when I think that sounds like her. And maybe that's the like narcissistic traits they talked about in court, right? But it is just crazy that she's even trying this with the family law case. Like, because the thing is, let's imagine a scenario where she wins, right? Sarah, let's say she wins. She gets the money and she gets the child support. Let's say that happened. Let's say she gets where she wanted Brian to be forced into counseling about how he's misbehaving towards Sarah, which is something she talked about. Let's say all of that occurs, right? She gets everything she wants. Why would her son want anything to do with her? Because that money could have gone to him, could have helped him go to college, get a car, go on a vacation, do studying, hang out with friends. Because remember, Brian isn't working. And you might say that Sarah doesn't care about her son. Personally, I agree. But I also think that in Sarah's mind, if she somehow did all of this, she would then be able to convince her son why it was the right thing for her to do. Which isn't reality. It isn't reality it was the right thing for her to do, and it's not reality that anyone would fall for that. Now, I know I haven't really followed a lot. I know Tanika's 2 cents has done a lot of extensive coverage of the family law case, and it's interesting. I watch the live streams if I catch them, even if I'm not in the chat, or I listen to them later. And I probably should cover them, because people love to hear about Sarah Boone and her nonsense, and it gets a lot of views. But it's not that I'm over dealing with Sarah Boone's crap, but it's the same old delusion. And I think that's why I'm disillusioned with covering her. Sarah doesn't learn, doesn't evolve, doesn't change. Reality does not ever seem to hit Sarah and sink in. But I will do a video when the family law case ends, for sure. When it ends, for sure, I want to talk about how she's probably just completely seething. And of course, we have her appeal that I'm following. But sadly, a lot of the Sarah Boone stuff, even when it's new, or I didn't cover it properly, it starts to sound the same. I've realized, I went back and watched some of my old Sarah Boone stuff, which I hate doing. I hate the sound of my own voice. And it really just kind of sinks in how she doesn't change. How I would if someone told me she truly believed that her appeal was going to work, I'd believe it. Because she thought she could convince a jury. Her sentencing, she had a plan to go in there and insult the judge and insult her past lawyers, cut some of it out, and still insulted the victim and the victim's family. And then released the full document anyway, because she never learns. I think I'll end it there. I know I don't know how long I ranted. It was a little bit, but it just really sinks in how she doesn't change. Like new information comes in and it doesn't matter. And I have to think she was like that before this too, right? This can't be a new thing. Maybe it's why Brian decided to get a divorce.